Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to World of Warcraft Classic. I am going to be showing you how to multibox today with Blizzard's recent announcement that they're going to be releasing World of Warcraft Classic servers. There's a lot of excitement about that. And one of the great things about World of Warcraft Classic is the multiboxing. It's definitely the version that makes it the easiest to multibox. So I decided to make a video showing you exactly how you would go about multiboxing World of Warcraft Classic. So the first place we're going to start is our add-ons. Now, for those of you who didn't play World of Warcraft Classic when it first came out, you wouldn't know about all the add-ons. I believe the current version, the current expansion of World of Warcraft, a lot of these things are already built into the game itself, and a lot of them are unnecessary. But we've got a lot of add-ons, as you can see the total list there as I scroll through it. Let's kind of go through everything. I'll give you an idea of what everything is. These mods, you can get them. Just Google World of Warcraft Classic mods. There are lots of sites that have them available for download. But here at the top, we've got Ace 2. This is as you can see by the description there, it's a library of different commands and things that these other mods use to function. And then we have Atlas, which places a little icon around the mini-map, and when you click it, it brings up an interface that shows you a map of all the instances plus the bosses that are in them, and then you can click on each one and it will give you a list of what they drop. Atlas Loot Enhanced just enhances the Atlas program, gives you more loot. Atlas Quest shows you instance quests and the rewards for those, and a description of who the quest giver is, etc. Chat Mod gives you more functions on your chat. Allows you to add things like timestamps, a bunch of different options. CT Mail Mod allows you to do things like mass mailing. In the original version, you can only send a couple of mods at a time. It'll also, the reason I use it the most is it will autofill names when you're typing out to mail of people who are, say, in your guild or on your friends list. So if you type C, it will pick the first person in your guild with a C and autofill that. And then you can put like CA, and it'll kind of like Google does when you search. Then damage meters basically is just gives you a graph of everyone's damage in your group. Discord action bars. This is probably the most important mod for multiboxing. It just basically gives you an insane amount of control over your buttons and your bars. And we'll get into that as I go through. I'm going to show you how to set up your first character, your main character, the one that you control, and then your other multi-boxed characters will follow that character around. Foobar just adds an information display across the top of the screen. You can see it adds a bag counter, a clock, a durability icon, shows you how much money you have, and then what your frame rates are. And then load it. Gives you an interface for loading mods in the game. It's just a convenience thing. Move anything, I don't use a lot, but it's handy to have because it literally allows you to move anything. So if you want to move your spell window, it'll allow you to move that. I think there's just one or two things I use it for. One bag, one bank. The default bags and bank in the classic version they're individual windows, which is ridiculous. So these put all your bags together into one big window, kind of similar to how it is in the current version of World of Warcraft. Simple mini-map that simply gives you a ton of different options. for your minimap, allows you to move around, stuff like that. Xpearl is the unit frames, and I can actually disable the RAID aspect of that. And then XLoot just changes the loot window and then moves the loot box underneath your mouse whenever you click on an enemy to loot their corpse. Okay, so that's all on my mods. We'll go ahead and we'll enter the world now. Now I've created a little gnome warrior here. I chose the gnome because I like them to be small compared to the mobs you'll be fighting in instances, just to help keep track of the mobs a little better. If you go with like a big Tauren, then you can't see the mobs very much because your character model overlaps them a lot. Plus, I like Nudmarog as the starting location to multibox in. As we get started questing, when you're multiboxing, there's two types of quests you'll generally find. You'll have go kill this number of enemies kind of quests, and those ones are great when you're multiboxing because when you kill one enemy, all 5 characters get credit for that one kill. Whereas the other kind of quest is go kill this type of thing and then loot so many off his corpse, which means that you end up having to loot, if there's one character needs 10 for the quest turn in, then across 5 characters you end up with 50 of those items you have to get, and it takes a long time. So let's get started with the interface. The first thing we're going to do is let's go and change our key bindings a bit. So these look pretty good. You can see I use a WASD setup, and I like the turn left and right bound to the Shift A and D. I also like the auto run bound to Shift W. I use a lot of Shift modifiers. The other thing I want to check is targeting. Okay, and I like my middle mouse button bound to the target nearest enemy key. So that's already set up for me, which is nice. So next we'll go and we'll change the bars and buttons. And with the vanilla version, you have to do this the old school way, which is you actually have to type in down here in your chat box /DAB, which stands for Discord Action Bars. And when you do that, it brings up this window. And this window gives you control over just about everything you could want with your bars and buttons. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come down here. We're going to go to miscellaneous options. And we're going to create a new profile here. And we're going to call it Main Warrior. And we're going to create that profile. So now any changes I make won't affect the default settings for my other characters that I'm going to create. So next, let's do the macro menu bar, which is this down here, and we're just going to hide that. And the bag bar, we're going to hide that too. We don't need it. The shapeshift bar we'll leave. I don't have a pet. Okay. Now we'll go down to main menu bar. We'll hide the art because I don't really like it, especially if I'm going to be disabling the bag bar and the other thing. I don't need the XP bar because I've got that on my unit frame mod right there. Let's go to button layout. Now this button layout shows you the number of buttons assigned per bar. And I don't like having a lot of bars. I prefer to use floaters instead, which are these down here. And a floater is just a single button that you put anywhere on the screen that you want. So we'll keep bar 2 and the main bar. Oh, no, wait. Because I'm a warrior, my main bar shifts whenever I change stances, which is this pages here. You can see it has 9 pages, and I can hover over it, and then shift mouse wheel will change through the pages. But see, I'm in battle stance here. If I add defensive stance, which I don't get to level 10, if I switch through it, this is going to page to bar 8, I think. Yeah. So right now it's paged to bar 7. Which is fine, but it means I need to leave some actual buttons on bar 7 here. Or do I need to do that? I think I do. But I don't want all 12 buttons. The default is 12. And I use the keys that are right next to WASD for my action bar, which is E, R, T, F, G, and V. And then I use shift modifiers for those. But I don't need the shift modifiers to change when I change stances. So the fewer buttons I have, the less complicated it'll be in the long run. See, I definitely want my F, my R, and my T to change when I change stances. But do I want any more? V possibly. I'm just going to go with 3. And that'll be my F, R, and T key. No, I'm going to go with 4. Okay. So now that I've decided how many buttons I want there, I need to set these other bars to 4 as well. And then my bar 2, I'm going to put 16 bars there. Okay. So now I'm going to come up here and I'm going to click over here, the main bar. And that brings up over here all the different options. And then it's got tabs as well. We'll go over there, but we want to, let's increase these up. Is 50 good? 50 is probably fine. I don't really like the borders, so I always take those away and then zoom the button. And then we're going to want to anchor it just at the bottom. And the bottom, we'll go, let's see, 0 and 0. Looks like, okay. I think I want those a little bigger. Let's try 75. Not too big. That'll work. Bar
R2, let's unhide, hide the backdrop, edges, remove the border. Let's see, let's go back to my button layout. Now we need to decide how many floaters I want. So let's see, I got a button for F, R, T, and maybe V. Yeah, let's call that V. Let's go to key bindings here. Configure. Okay. So that'll be F, R, T, and V. I am sorry. I'll try and mute it next time I have to cough. So with that, we'll add, let's see, we'll add an E floater. We'll add a Shift E floater, a Shift R, a Shift T, a Shift F, and a Shift V. And then we'll add a Control R, Control T, Control F, and Control V. So that gives me 10 floaters. You can see my floaters popped up right there in the very center of the screen. Before we go messing with the floaters, let's move. That's 50. Let's make that 25. Let's see what that's too small. Let's try 35. Okay, it disappeared. There we are. It's very hard to tell. I think that's at the edge of the screen. Those will just be my clickables. But let's 1, 2, 3, 4. The auto configure automatically changes it so that it adds any buttons you've created. So now we can keybind the floaters I just made. Let's see, I went E, Shift Shift R, Shift T. Well, no, let's Shift F, Shift R, Shift T, Shift V, Control R, no, Control F, Control R, Control V, T, Control V. Okay, so now all my floaters are keybound. So we're going to come down here, we're going to select floater 33. And this is my E key. Now, for some reason, the floaters have a different scale. I think, than the bars do. Yeah, because that's at scale 70 or 175, and it's about as big as this at scale 100. I'm not sure why it's like that, but that's just the way it is. Let's see, and we're going to bind this to the right, and we're going to put the anchor point at the left. And we're going to anchor it to bar 1. Let's trim the button edges and make the border disappear.
Now, the way my control setup works is my most used button is F. E, when I'm multiboxing, is usually a pull and pick up aggro key. And then I switch to F, which controls is another maintain aggro key, usually Sunder Armor, and then Heroic Strike macro, and then RT. And as I go, you'll find out why it is that I do that. But I'm going to make the E key a bit smaller. I mean, it kind of just worked out that way. But we'll put that there. Now my shift keys, I'm going to put directly over top of that one. And we do that by setting the anchor frame to that button, which is 33. You can hit the Show Button IDs button, and it'll show you which button ID it has. We'll just trim button edges. And I'm going to modify this so that it only shows when I actually press the Shift key, which you'll see in a little bit. But right now I'm just going to get the keys set where I want them. So, with this one being smaller, right, if I set this to 100, the maximum, it's actually smaller than the button I want to put it over. Oops. It's going to be left and then left again. Oh, and I need to change the frame strata. This determines, if something is over top, or the two things overlap, which one is over top the other one. So this one is at the very highest setting, which is the default. I'm going to set it to background, which is the lowest. That way my key, this Shift F button, shows over top of it. But it won't do that all the time because I'm going to modify it in those control settings. The behavior so that it only shows when I press the Shift key. And you'll see that in a little bit. Now, since I'm anchoring this to the bar itself, I have to manually move it around. I guess that's lined up. And we'll just keep doing this for the remainder of my bars, or buttons that I created. This one we're not going to anchor to the bar one here, like I did the last one. Instead, we're going to anchor to that one, and we're going to just left, right. It's odd it's so far away like that. And actually, and this one we will bind to 36. And left, right. I always have to think about that. Let's see. Now here I need to, let's just do this. I don't actually plan on keeping these spells where they are. I just need it to be able to line up the position of these floaters properly. So we'll just combine, do that again with only this time 37, and left, and, oops, right. Okay. And now this one is my first control modifier. You can see it there, Control F. So we're just going to put this right over top 35. And there it is. Now, we're going to go to the advanced config. So yeah, I'm considering whether I should modify this frame strata. I could put it to medium, and then it's going to always show over top the shift modifier. But since I rarely press shift and control at the same time, it doesn't actually matter. Yeah, that's fine. Anything else I need to... I think we're good. Go to the next one. And that one we're going to put over top of 36. Center. The advanced config. Trim button edges. And remove the border. And now it'll go pretty quick. Oh, did I change? No. There we go. Remember to change the size. So this one's Control T. It goes over Shift T, which is 37. Center and center. We're just going to trim the button edges, trim the button border, and move on to the last one, which is 42, which is Control V. I'll just go right over top 38 there. All right. Now, we're going to want to change and make it so that these disappear and reappear when I press the Shift key. Oh, and I said that backwards. They'll appear when I press the Shift key and disappear when I let it go. So we come here to 34, we hit Control. And these are our conditionals, or conditions. And you can see when you pull down this menu, you've got a whole list of different things that are various conditions that the game can be in a state of. So, like, for example, this one's in combat. So if I add this as a conditional, then anytime my character is in combat, you can have a certain effect. You can change the button to a different button. So maybe out of combat, the button is one thing, but then you go in combat and it switches that button to a combat skill, say Heroic Strike. For this particular thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing Shift key down. So when the Shift key is down, I want it to have this response, which is to show the button. So all I'm going to do is just add that. Right, and nothing happens. Because the button is already shown. So what we're going to do is we're going to add another condition, and it is going to be the Shift key up condition. So anytime the Shift key is up, we are going to have it hide the button. And we're just going to add that. Okay, so it's not working because the button is empty. So to change that, we are going to make a macro. Oh, when we already have a macro created, and it's just my wait macro. And this is just a blank macro. It doesn't actually do anything. It's more a placeholder. So we're going to come back here to 34. And we're going to choose no condition. And the reason we're going to choose no condition is because we want this to happen all the time. Anytime something else isn't happening. And so anytime something isn't happening that affects this response, which is the set action response, It's just going to change the action to that wait macro we made. Now, once again, that doesn't do anything. And the reason that is because of the way this mod works. Button layout, there we are. And it's because these action IDs are set to empty buttons. And the action ID just basically determines what action shows on what button. So, I want to come down here to my floaters. And I'm just going to set them all to wait. That wait macro. Because you notice when I set floater 34 to wait, it disappeared. So it's now functioning the way it's supposed to, based on the conditions that I set. Right, and basically setting it to wait just resets the whole thing. So, I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go to 33. 33 is just the E key, which I want to show all the time. But I want to have this no condition set action to wait there. So I'm just going to paste the previous floaters conditions to it and then delete the two that I don't need. Oh, except no, the button's gone. We can fix that by clicking the hide button and then unclicking it. It's just the order that I deleted it. Okay, so go ahead and copy that, and now we're going to copy that to all of the shift modified keys or floaters, which is 35 up to 38. Let's say that, because 39 is a control modified button. Okay, so now with 39 through 42, these control modified buttons, we're going to, well, let's do the same thing, but instead of those, we're going to delete them, and we're going to find the control key is down. And with control key is down, we want it to show. And the same thing when the control key is up, except we want it to hide. And we have that conditional. Let's bring this one down on order of importance. Okay, and we'll copy that. And then we'll just paste that to conditions for all of these other keys. And you can see they disappear as soon as I do that. Okay, so as you can see, if I press the shift button, those keys automatically show up, and then if I hit shift F, you can see that highlights there, and then T, F, B, E. And the same with control. My shift keys I use a moderate amount. The main keys, these keys, I use the most, and then less and less. And then control I use the least amount. Like I like to have my mount key to control R. Just the way my key setup has evolved over the years. So we've got that all set up, for the most part. I've only got 2 spells at the moment. And I don't really care about having an attack key. Do I care? No. I don't really care having an attack key because there is a setting. Let's go back to showing that. No. Now, with this main bar, I'm going to have to come here. It's a little bit different. The bar control, you can see this makes it shift to the various pages as I shift stance. And then you have this button control, which is, you use this more. You can see there are a lot of buttons. Whew. One for each page, but you don't use the second pages and stuff. what I'm going to do is I'm going to come into the change actions, and this just shows you all the actions that I currently have. And since this is a new character, I don't have a lot. I am going to change this around. I am going to start my attack sequence. Rather than way down there at 70, I'm going to change it and start it here at 20. And I'm going to start it, instead of using that, just the spell, dragging that out of my spellbook, I'm going to create a macro. Which at this point is a little unnecessary. I won't need it for a while. But once I start getting spells like Hamstring and Rend and Sunder Armor, I'm going to want to combine that spell with like Heroic Strike and Overpower and Revenge. So let's see if I can find the Heroic Strike icon in this massive list of icons. And we're going to call this Heroic HS for Heroic Strike, and that'll be fine. I also like to use macros because if you get rid of the rank designation, of course it doesn't matter much for a warrior, but with like a mage who has, for warrior, every time you get a new rank of Heroic Strike, it overwrites the previous rank, so I won't be able to ever use Heroic Strike rank 1 once I get Heroic Strike rank 2. For mages, that's different. They have rank 1 of, say, Frostbolt, and then they'll have another rank 2, rank 3, rank 4. This way, it automatically, when you get a new spell, you don't have to drag anything to the bar. So that's going to be the first key. And really, with just the one ability at level 1, there's not much more I can do as far as this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here to the main bar and go to the button control. We're going to paste what I had in the previous floater and just delete the hide conditionals. Oh. Right. And I actually need to paste that here. Crap. Let's do this. Because I messed up and caused that button to disappear, and because it's just the button that disappeared and not the whole bar, I can't do this what I did before to fix it, which was to go in and hide the whole thing and then show the whole thing. So I repasted, and I'm going to delete the control key up thing, and then if I hit control, it'll reappear. And then I can delete this one, and it doesn't disappear again. Okay. So I've got no condition wait. I'm going to change that and make it go to condition 20. Okay. Real simple. And now my action button, my button there is that Heroic Strike macro. And if I hide the button ID, you can see it displays Heroic Strike right there. Now I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need to show. I think I've got the bars set up. So let's go ahead and we'll set up the X-Pearl action, or unit frames mod. And to open that, it's just this white, I guess that's a pearl. It's that icon there right next to the minimap. A lot of these settings are set up from, what I did last time I was multiboxing. This certainly isn't the first time I've multiboxed World of Warcraft Classic, so my old settings are still here. And I'm just going to move my unit frame there. I should have... I thought there was a way to extend. the length here. Maybe it's under global. Well, maybe that was a later version of. Maybe it was the Burning Crusade version of Xpearl that you could lengthen. Oops. The width of the frame. So if you don't have your settings going, I like this. Whoops, let's move that out there. And let's align top. I've gone ahead and, my settings from last time, I removed the frame border. So for example, if you click that little box, you can come in here and you can change the border. And that adds it like that. Oops, that's not what I want. Go back here, change it back down. I like it at 0. You can also, if you click one of these tabs, you can show, I think the default has that off, the XP bar. I like to turn it on, and then the player portrait, I don't really like. It's just excess I don't need. And then you've got your target here. You can have your target, stuff like that, mana level percentages. I disable a lot, just to keep it real simple. And I think I'm going to go ahead and pause this video, and I'll come back to you, and we'll finish this up, and then I'll move on to my other characters. Anyway, I will see you in the next video.